For sure.
But yeah, I wanted to ask y'all, how do you guys deal with like anger and frustration that's pent up over time?
Ooh.
Or
I already talked about mine, but I can talk a little bit more. Go ahead.
Oh, well, can I start, guys?
You can start. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, do your thing, bro.
All right, awesome. So yeah, Josh, that's a great question, man. And it was kind of leaning into what Demetrius and Marcus were talking about earlier, as far as just the, I guess, expectation of men dealing with, especially Black men, dealing with masculinity, and pretty much, and how really it's unfair. Like Demetrius, that's really unfair for somebody to put being a man on a child. You know, that's not really, that's harsh, man. And I dealt with that not so much from my parents, because the one thing I'll say about my mom and my dad, my dad has always been an open book, you know, and he's always expressed to me like, hey man, you know, if you're feeling something, talk about it. Like my dad, my you know, favorite quote from my dad is, you know, if you want to know something, ask a question. You know, he's always that guy that's just like, hey, you know, talk about it. And my mom, she's like super duper emotional, but not in the crying sense. Like she's just like, she's a very brash person. You know, anybody that is that a good way to describe her to me?
Yeah, that's all right. I was like, when you were describing her, I was like,
he doesn't hold her tongue about anything.
Oh
Yeah,
man, she gonna say some cuss words in there too. She gonna throw a couple cuss words at you too.
Yeah. So anybody.
That's my mom all the way.
Yes. So anybody that knows Lita Singleton, you already know. But either way, but yeah. So I kind of dealt with the same thing, but it wasn't from my parents. It was more so from kind of like outside influences, you know, because like I said, my relationship with playing sports my whole life, you know, it's not so much that I hated it, but just kind of like you were saying, Christina, at a certain point, I'm just going through the motions, you know, because it's something to do. So I remember, and I held that in. And the thing that made me upset when I was in high school was that it got to the point where I was suppressing part of me that I enjoyed to express part of me that I didn't like, you know. So and it had to do a lot with like the people I was with, you know, my coaches at the time. Like I would have events that I could have gone to for my art and stuff like that I couldn't, because I had to go to practice and I had to do this. And it was just something that at some point it got kind of frustrating. And I remember my last football game that I had, the last one, it was senior night, and I wasn't never the greatest football player, like, but they put me in the game, and basically I got hurt. I won't really say like I broke my leg, but I dislocated it. And yeah, that night I had to be taken. Yeah, I don't even think I told anybody about that, but yeah.
Oh, you told me. You told me about that.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was nasty. You told me about how it rolled.
Yeah, I messed up my leg pretty bad, and I had to get taken to the hospital. And I was so angry that I couldn't even hold it. As soon as I hit the hospital bed and the doctor left the room, I broke out. I broke out in tears, man. I started crying and shouting and stuff. I was like, Mom, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. I've hurt myself doing something that I can't stand. Like I don't want to do it anymore. I just can't. And I broke down and cried that day, you know, and my mom, of course, you know, because my parents, they're always so supportive. They're like, you know what, that's fine. You know, we understand. The important thing is that you're being honest with us. But, you know, that was years, you know what I'm saying? That's years of that, of me, you know, having to, like I said, put or hold on to or suppress a part of myself that I really wanted to do a lot more with that, but I couldn't because I had this roadblock in the way that, you know, I had to go to every day and kind of go through the motions. So yeah, you know, that was kind of how I got rid of, and I feel a lot better now, you know, I'm okay now, but that was kind of my, my crossroads right there on that night. You know, when I finally hurt myself really bad, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to college for this, because at that point I thought I was going to college to play football. The whole science thing wasn't even in my mind at that point. You know, I was going to go to college, play football in college, and probably try to go to the NFL. So think about that. If that didn't happen and that injury didn't happen, my whole life will probably be different right now. So yeah, so that's kind of how that worked. You know, for me, that's just my example.
That's so crazy, bro, because we have like similar stories, and it's so crazy because we never met. We didn't know each other then, but we kind of went the same route, because I went through the same exact thing, bro. I tore my MCL my freshman year in high school. Oh, wow. And when it happened, I didn't know how bad it was. I thought I had just had like a muscle spasm or something. And they took me to the hospital. And my mom and dad went with me, but my dad was all like, you know, you're gonna be all right. You know, you're gonna get back out there, play, blah, blah, blah. My mom was like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to know if my child is okay. And just like you, when they told me what was what, like, I just cried, because I was like, am I going to get to play again? Am I going to be the same person? Am I going to be able to walk good? Like, can I still do certain stuff? And it was just like, even when I had the surgery and everything, it was like, it wasn't depressing, but it was like a really like down time for me, because I've never been hurt and had a serious injury. And I gotta say, if it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't have got through it as good as I did, because even though I went ahead and played, you know, a couple more years, I didn't take it serious. Like you, I figured out I'm not finna go pro. I'm not finna play in college. You know, maybe this could just be a hobby, but let me figure out exactly what I'm gonna do and what I want to do, because obviously this is not my passion. Because after I got hurt, even trying to come back, I didn't want to play. And I tried to play my senior year, got into it with the coach, said I quit the team. My dad tried to convince me to get back on the team. And it was just a bunch of BS, and they was trying to tell me what I needed to do if I wanted to play. And I was like, I don't have to do this, because this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I left, and I never, you know, I didn't play anymore. And it's crazy because my grades got better. I focused more on what I wanted to do, what college I wanted to go to. So, you know, like you, Chad, it was a blessing for me that I got hurt, because, you know, I figured out who I wanted to be. And like I said, I still love basketball and sports, and I play it for like exercise and stuff. But, you know, it really was like a eye opener for me. And then, like I said, with my mom, she was really like the rock for me through that whole thing, because like with you, Chad and Josh, it's so cool to hear like y'all say that stuff about y'all dad, and y'all can go talk to him. Because with me, like, I love my dad to death, but I could not go talk to him about stuff, because you know, he wasn't that open book for me, like, you know, like where I could go and talk to him about everything. I could talk to him about certain stuff, like, you know, sports, or, you know, if I needed help with homework, or if I needed to know how something works on a car or something like that. But as far as like other things, I've always went to my mom, because my mom has always been like, you know, you can talk to me about anything, whether you wrong or right, you know. Because like your mother, she gonna be straight up with me, you know. She not gonna cut no corners and be like, oh baby, yeah, you nah. If you was stupid, you was stupid for doing that. And you know, that's what I had. So, you know, it's cool that, you know, you can say that, you know, about your dad and stuff. And for me, it's my mom, and then, like I said, my brother too, because a lot of stuff that, you know, we went through, me and my brother, we went through it with each other, and that's kind of who I like would talk to about stuff, and went to talk, and we used to talk to each other about stuff. So that was kind of like to replace like my dad not being like the person I could go talk to about a lot of stuff, because even if my brother didn't listen or seem like he didn't care, he did, because I know how he is. But that was like my cope for, you know, my dad not being as open for me to talk to about stuff. So I definitely went through like the same thing as you, but so I totally understand that. Like,
I
it hurt.
appreciate that.
You just want to like go lie on the floor and just cry out. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something that I hope we as a whole world kind of tackle, is just mental health, and especially when it comes to toxic masculinity, especially in the Black community. You know, it hurts. And it's those generational curses that we keep on talking about. I mean, it doesn't help that, I don't know, I guess we have social media now, that we have people that now everyone has a platform, you know.
Basically.
So now there's room for criticism, not there's this box that everyone now tries to fit you in. It's hard. I can definitely relate to not knowing how to express yourself, because I mean, I'm not a Black American man, obviously,
Okay.
but I can definitely relate to not knowing how to be vulnerable, not knowing how to express your feelings. That's still something that I have a hard time dealing with, because once Chad, you logged off the other day, me and Dee were talking, I was telling him that, you know, this year I always self-reflect, always. I'm always analyzing every single thing. But something that I realized was that, you know, my whole life, I knew I was an emotional person. I think that helped me be an empathetic person early on. So I've always found that people would come to me and they were able to be vulnerable with me, and I was able to really connect with people and understand other people's hurt. But I really had to differentiate being vulnerable with other people versus me being vulnerable with them, because it's a two-way street. You know, it's easy for me to cry with someone. I'm not shy with that. I'm a very affectionate person, and I can sense other people's pain. But when it comes to me vocalizing my own pain, I kind of muted myself ever since I was a kid. And so when you guys talk about having these relationships with your parents, I'm not gonna lie, it's like I am very jealous. Or even honestly, like, to have that relationship with anyone.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone in my life that I can feel like, wow, like they really actually know me. All my friendships and relationships, they have never really lasted. I don't have like a childhood friend. Not even like a family member that I can really, I mean, it's not like I know that there are people that are willing to do the same that I would for them. I've just really, really, really been struggling with just opening up and just realizing that there's just this floodgates. Like, backtracking to Joshua's topic of how knowing how to deal with your anger. I don't know. I think like last year, it's surprising how much suppressed feelings can come out, because it just so happens that I got drunk one night with friends and I ended up having just a complete meltdown. And I already knew that I was feeling kind of depressed around this time, but, you know, it's not as bad as, you know, I've been through worse before. But it just came out just so horrible. And I was just so angry and so just angry and sad. I don't know yet how I can actually, no, I know why I kind of suffer with that is because I don't know how to communicate. I kind of had this realization that I never saw my parents argue. So, because to me, you know, they have like, I fucking know that they're in love, you know. There is no doubt in that. And I freaking love my parents and I know that they love me. There is no doubt in that.
Right.
But it just so happens that their choice of not showing their kids how to problem solve is what kept me from learning how to communicate in friendships, knowing like confrontation is the worst for me. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to tell someone like, hey, what you did, it kind of bothered me. Or when, if people have ever said that to me, then I'm just like, oh, well, crap. No, okay, I understand. Friendship is over. And they're just like, no, that we just had a disagreement. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Like, I understand if this friendship isn't working out, which is, really contributes to why I haven't really had a really long friendship. So that's something that I really want to try to work on. But at the same time, I also don't want to force relationships, you know? So it's really kind of try to find that balance. Learning how to communicate with people so that I don't have random impulsive outbursts. Because I do believe I have a temper. Like I'm super bubbly a lot of the time. But if I feel angry, I feel it very strongly. And it's not often that people see that side of me. And I hate it because there's been multiple outbursts that I've had where it's just, you know, 0 to 100. And it just so happens that all my friends are there and just like, oh, they saw this side of me that my worst side of me, you know? Just your whole, the way that you've grown up, it really shapes the way that you perceive the world and how you interact with it. So I guess I'm going to push this question back to you, Joshua, since you were the one that asked it. I'm assuming that you're really curious about it. And so how do you have anger issues? And how do you deal with expressing emotion?
I would say I wouldn't have anger issues, but I'm more so I have frustration issues. If that makes sense. And how I deal with that is I listen to music, and I listen to music. I mean, I like to write, so I kind of write down my frustrations in my head while listening to music. And like when I get some time, I actually put it on paper, and I make it into a story. So I have like little short stories that I have. I either might have it on paper or in my head, and I can always go back to it. That's pretty much how I deal with frustration and stuff.
I admire that. Yeah, I really admire that you're able to really turn that into something creative.
Exactly.
Because I'm always in my head. I have a lot of shit going on in my head, but I don't think I gave myself outlets because, again, it's a whole struggle with perfection of, you know, if I'm going to create something, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
when you say that, it's just like right. And I deal with that a lot too, because when you say when I create something, I want it to be right. It's just like right for who? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it? Because I deal with that all the time. I'm just like, well, I want this to be like this, and I want it to be like that, and I'm just like, well, if I'm doing it for myself, you know, isn't that enough? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's kind of what I had to learn too, going forward, and that's why I'm glad you brought that up, because it's just like you kind of get so wrapped up in just like presenting something or putting something out there and it not being received very well, you know, that whole thing, when it's just like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the only person that truly matters and the only opinion that, you know, really matters is your own, you know. So yeah, man.
To bounce off of Josh's question about anger and frustration, how I deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. Like for the longest time when I was a kid, like I didn't have anybody that I could trust to go to and talk about it. So, and this is gonna sound a little crazy, but like I would voice my frustrations out loud, like to
Mm-hmm.
myself. Like I would just shout them out and just kind of like work it all the way out myself. And I'd be like, okay, why am I mad? You know, and I'd be like, this is the reason. And then like I kind of like work through it and be like, okay, so what am I gonna do about it? This, that, the other. Where is it coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And that stimulates into like now, like if I'm like frustrated about something, I'll be maybe in my car driving somewhere and I'll just be talking out
Mm-hmm.
loud and just getting it all out. Even if I don't have
Mm-hmm.
anybody like, you know, a friend, like if I don't call Chad or I don't call anybody else, I'll just have the conversation with myself so that at the end of the day, when I'm done with it all, I'm like, I feel a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know,
That's why
talking
I
to
want to go to
yourself
therapy.
feels great.
That's exactly why I want to go to therapy, because every time that my parents would ask me what's wrong growing up, it's just the frog in the throat. I can't. And then I just start crying and I'm just mad. And literally, they never find out what's going on. And you're pretty much self-parenting yourself. You know, you're guiding yourself through. And I think just the act of talking it out makes a biggest difference. I think that form of, I forgot what form of therapy that is, or it's like vocal therapy or something. Um, it's pretty much just vocalizing it and then just getting that weight off of you and having that unbiased trained person, you know, walk you through it. But you're really doing that for yourself. So that's good.
Yeah, I don't ever try to talk about it because like people are like, "Oh, you're crazy for talking to yourself," and I'm like,
Man,
"No, it's my whole thing."
Man, you ain't gotta feel like that, bro. Cause I go
Not at all.
thing, man. Like, you know, it just recently I had that kind of situation. Like, I had to calm myself down because I
Mm-hmm.
try to keep my anger inside so much because I grew up having a temper,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, you know, I would act out, and people thought they would say I was bad, but it wasn't. I didn't have. It wasn't because I was bad. It's just, you know, I was trying to keep it inside and just figure out, you know, other stuff to do. And then I had the whole thing about like where they said, you know, I was hyper and I had the attention deficiency thing, and you know, I couldn't stay still and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was just, things didn't challenge me, so I just was trying to figure out the next thing. And then on top of that, I got to deal with my anger problems and you know how to keep that inside. So
Mm-hmm.
like what Josh said, you know, when I got older, music and you know my creative like side of me is what I went to because
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, I love to tell stories. I like to make out little comic books and like even sometimes I reflect myself in some of my characters I make, you know, just to, you know, have that positive energy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like Demetrius, you know, I'll talk to myself and be like, you know, Marcus, you know, just calm down, you know, don't let it get to you. You know, it's not that deep, you know, because you have to have those conversations with yourself because, like you said, Demetrius, at that time, you might not be able to call somebody or go right to nobody to talk to because, you know, you upset. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you got to immediately grab yourself and be like, hey, man, like, get yourself together because, like, just like I said, just recently, a manager at my job just kept messing with me, and I was ready to like go off and like just like hurt this man
Mm-hmm.
because I'll be trying to be calm, and when you keep pushing me, I'm like, okay, bro, I'm not gonna take it no more. So like,
Right.
I just
Yeah.
I went and sat down, and I just closed my eyes. I just talked to myself and just calmed myself down. And Chad could be a witness to that too because he's calmed me down plenty of times at work. You know, when he seen me get upset, you know, he'd be like, man, you know, don't worry about that stuff. Don't let them people get to you because they just trying to, pick at you because they know you a kind person and blah, blah, blah. And,
That's it.
so, I go through all those emotions and it's funny because all of you said different things that I do to, cope with that and, help myself get through it. it's very difficult because, you know, you feel like people don't understand why you get upset, and they're like, you know, well, why are you all, like, a question somebody always asks me, like, at work and just period, is like, well, you don't seem like you ever stressed, or you're always happy, you're always smiling, because, you know, I don't want to have to go to that place where I just be like, you know, upset all the time, because
Right.
I don't want to, you know, when you ball all that up inside of you, it, like you said, Christina, it comes out and it's just like an outburst. You just don't know how to handle it, and it's just like out of control, and like, you know, you just don't know how to deal with it, and you know that's it's you know, it's like a up and down battle sometimes. It's like I was talking to my brother the other day, but not too long ago, and he had got into like a kind of real like low point, and he just felt, you know, real sad and stuff, and he was like, you know, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and it's not helping me. And I just told him, I said, hey, bro, I'm here for you. I go through the same thing as you, and we can talk about it. And that's going back to being men. It's hard for other men to talk to other men because, like we say, we feel like, you know, hey, man, don't be crying on me and all that. We might joke and stuff, but, you know, we have to be that comfort for each other, too, because, you know, we brothers. So, you know, we got to be able to talk to each other because a lot of times, you know, other people, you know, can't understand what we're going through. So
Right.
it's good to have, you know, another male to talk to and who can be open with you. And we sat there and we talked for like hours just about, you know, how we feel, what's going on with us mentally, you know, how, you know, we look, you know, just for love from people. And that's, you know, that's all you want at the end of the day is just, you know, people to show you the same kind of love, you know, you show them. So it's definitely something I still work with, but I have gotten 100 times better than I'll say 10 years ago, me with my anger is way different now. I've gotten a lot better with it, and it has a lot to do with the people who I surrounded myself with. So I think that's been the most important thing for me to get through it is like the people who I have around me, because they've really helped me. Like I said, I know I'm gonna keep going back to her, but like my mom is like, like the one person, because I keep telling y'all we the same person, so she knows, you know, how to help me with that, and I help her with, you know, her times because I know when she's going through stuff. So it's definitely, you know, a battle.
Yeah. And
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Christina. What are some of the issues you go through being a woman?
Well, crap.
Hey, Josh, great question, man.
Great question.
Oh, you know, I really, okay. I guess something that me and a lot of other women go through, we're so afraid of rustling feathers or coming off as a bitch that we end up finding ourselves in really uncomfortable situations. Because I've found myself in a lot of situations where there's just like this random dude at like a party or something, and like just me being me, I'm genuinely connecting with people, like literally like what's your childhood like? Why
Right,
you
right.
the way you are? And then they'll be like, oh my god, you're so different. I'm just like, yeah, no. Literally, like a lot of people are able to connect in this way. Y'all just talking to the wrong people.
For sure.
Yeah.
But no, I would find myself in really uncomfortable situations where they would try to find their way to either flirt with me, touch me, hug me, like put me in this really weird situation to where like if I claim or if I vocalize that, hey, like this is my boundary, or like, hey, stop, like you need to, I don't feel right, then it's just like, ooh, then you're like the sourpuss of the party, or like you just made things really awkward. I think a lot of us females go through that. The whole I mean, of course, men also, especially being the nice person in general, honestly, being afraid to put your boundaries just because you don't want to make someone else comfortable.
Right.
I think it's really important that we try to find our voice. Coming off as a bitch is the least of your worries, because then it might lead into something a lot worse. And I mean, luckily for me, I haven't found myself in that position, but a lot of people unfortunately have. Which is why I was literally just talking to Dee before this call about this guy at work, and I can tell when people, they look you up and down and they have that ulterior motive, but they mask it with like, oh, questions about work, or I'm a customer, I have all these questions, but you really know. And we talked about fetishizations when it comes to relationships in general, like for him being a black man and for me being a Filipino. Like the guy was just like, oh, where do I get lumpia around here? And I'm just like, bruh.
Dude.
Yeah. And then D was just telling you about stuff that he had to deal with. And it's just like, don't be afraid to come off as a bitch, because you're saving yourself a lot.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the things that I can really bring up.
No, that's a big one actually. Because I can only imagine, it's because like you said, it's a situation where you don't want to come off as, like being a horrible person. But you don't want to be too agreeable to the point to where you put yourself in a very uncomfortable,
you get taken advantage of.
Taken advantage of, right? And that's gotta suck, because as a guy, I can't really speak for Marcus and Demetrius, but for the most part, I've never really been in too many situations where it's like, okay, I'm speaking to a person and or I guess like speaking to a woman or so like that, and there's the looming feeling that, oh, she wants something from me. This is not genuine. You know what I mean? Like, so having to deal with that, I'm sure that has to be mentally taxing after a while.
Yeah.
The heartbreaking thing is that I had to deal with that with some guy friends. Wow. And I think that's why the way that I present myself, I mean, it's a mixture of, right now in my life, I literally have no interest in dating or even flirting. But from past experiences like that, I really had to be like, hey, yo, like, I'm your freaking homie. Like, treat me that way. I ain't no girl. I'm your homie. Had to toughen it up a bit, just because I want you to get the clear signal.
I get it,
yeah.
Once we're established as homies, it's not going to change.
Right.
So please, like, let's not make this awkward. Please respect that. And it's funny because it kind of relates to like toxic masculinity, where society, even men and women, have this expectation of what men are supposed to be, and this really brings up sexual assaults with men. That's something that's not talked about, but it happens so much, to where, especially for minors or like people in high school, I feel like we've all have that story of, oh, that dude fucked this teacher. Like, oh, yo, like he has hella cred, right?
Street cred and shit.
Yeah, like he's the man of the hour, man.
Yeah, but then it's like, let's say that this female teacher is hitting on you, but inside you really feel uncomfortable, but you're expected to be like, hell yeah, you're expected to like that because you're a man, you're a boy, you're expected to like all this shit. But that I know more, or at least more of my male friends or people that I've known in the past, I know more of them that have been sexually assaulted at some point of their lives. and
Wow.
it just really, messes you up, or it like twists your perception of what's wrong and what's right, you know?
No, yeah, I'm completely sure because for me, I can't speak on it personally, but I do know that, as a child, especially, even biologically speaking, before you're 25 and you've developed your prefrontal cortex, when you can make decisions and you have clear thought process and you pretty much become you as a person, up until that point, your brain is still very malleable. You're still trying to figure out where you're going to be. You're impressionable. That's what I was looking for. And for something like that to happen, to a kid in high school that might not even be 18 yet, 17, 16, and for him to be, essentially molested by a teacher or sexualized, by a teacher or somebody of authority, I'm sure that definitely has that does something to them mentally. It might, mess up how they approach relationships. Who they approach. You never know, and I definitely agree with you, and I feel so bad for people that have had to go through that, because yes, I've had friends that I've discussed that with, and they told me stories about how that happened to them when they were younger, and how it's not a high five thing, it's not oh yeah, I did that, no, it's not like that. And yeah, that's a great point you brought up, Christina. Like that definitely needs to be talked about a lot more.
Definitely.
Certainly.
I mean, it can go into many other situations too, because unfortunately I knew a person that was raped by their boyfriend, and it's just like, oh, you're together, that's not rape, blah blah blah. But it's just like, no, when
it's
the consent isn't there, it's just
right.
It's horrible.
Exactly. No, it definitely is. And that's something that bleeds into a lot of what's, I guess, perpetualized a lot and in media, what we think is acceptable, like you said, that and I love that word, I love that topic, because it means a lot, especially in this age, that
yeah, I know.
Fetishization. There you go. I know what you got it.
Right. But I wanted to talk about, because that whole fetishization thing, it happens a lot, because when you have somebody, and you might not, I like to make the distinction, right? From people that have a mental illness, that claim depression as their mental illness, from what everybody goes through. And because everybody, if you're a human, at some point in your life, you're going to feel depressed. So regardless if you're going through depression or you're feeling depressed, in this age, a lot of people try to find solace or some sort of affirmation in social media. And a lot of the times, through these you know what I mean? Through that, that's a hard word to get tonight, y'all. But through all of that, you can look at social media and it makes you feel a lot worse about yourself or your situation. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you think social media contributes to depression?
I think that it's just like, because when we talked about, we touched on that when we talked about our internet episode. We talked about how people look at other people from like this perspective of like all the good things that are, they're doing. They'll put their new car, they'll put their new job, or if they win the lottery, they put that up there, but they won't put all the time they struggled and stuff like that. So you have this false sense of who they are. And when you look at that, and you don't think of it like, okay, they've had bad times, you get depressed and you don't think that you're doing enough. You think that you need to start raising the bar up and doing something. You need to go to the moon or something like that to kind of get on their level, So
right.
It plays a big part, I think, in like depression, like in people, and it gets into like whether it's like how they look, like models and stuff like that. that can lead into self body issues, and then that can lead into depression because you don't look like supermodel, these Instagram models, or whoever these ideal body standards are, for male or female, so it plays a bigger part if like you don't come at it with an overall lens. If you just look at everything they post, then you're gonna you'll feel depressed. Because I went through that, when I was in high school. I was like, okay, they're putting all this stuff up there, they're doing this, they're doing all this stuff, and then they're working out, and I'm like the way I am now. So like it made me feel like really bad about myself. But when I've had time to look at it, I kind of was able to get over it. But that's not easy. It's really not.
No. Mm-mm. Definitely not. How about you, Christina?
I actually had to do a social media cleanse. Well, specifically an Instagram cleanse, because on an image-based social media, that one's easy to really compare yourself with, and comparison is literally your worst enemy. You're your worst enemy. That really did wonders.
That's what's up.
For me, I was the type of person that I had to go through every single thing in my feed because I needed to know what's going on. I guess not so much was other people's lives, but I guess what's going on in the world, which is why I didn't delete my Facebook, because I still wanted want to know what's going on.
Right.
And that was really when, BLM was happening and the coronavirus was happening. That's kind of what helped me find my voice and then be able to come back onto social media. And once I came back, I realized how much time and effort and energy it took for me to really absorb everything. Because you really had to be careful with who you're following. I had to delete a lot of people. Because even then you're subconsciously taking this stuff in. So does this person that you follow, do they make you feel good? Do they inspire you in some sort of way? Or do they just make you feel like crap? Or even though you know that they're like a cool person, is that voice in your mind comparing yourself to them? And that's what I had to do with some accounts that I liked, and they're like aesthetically cool and stuff. I think that's also the reason why I started following a lot of, a lot of like psychology accounts or just spiritual accounts in a sense, because it was like you just go through your feed and you just learn about like different lessons or just different aspects of psychology and self that you wouldn't have expected. Or to me, it holds a lot more worth than someone whose account is just aesthetically pleasing. I really had to learn how to not criticize aesthetic-based accounts, because in my mind, vanity is just a really hard thing to wrap my mind around or to even accept. But on social media, when people are supportive, they're just like, yes, go off, like if she wants to post this, it's the whole self-embodiment.
Sure.
I can feel sexy whether I'm wearing all these clothes or if I'm feeling not wearing any clothes. That's something that I had to really change my perspective on, because there's different ways that people express their confidence. And just because I grew up, not liking vanity and thinking like, oh, this person's shallow, blah, blah, blah. I had to really accept that there's different ways of expressing yourself. I still try to find some sort of genuinity in someone's account if I decide to follow them. Are they literally only about, you know, the likes and stuff? Are they really actually shallow, you know, and they don't give their full self on social media? I've just gravitated towards people who don't put their highlights of their life online. And really, honestly, really diversifying my content, because I've been trying to find, like, surfing has been on my bucket list, but all the surfer accounts that I saw, they're all thin girls and generally white girls. And then I found a bunch of Filipino surfers in the Philippines that I was just like, yes, like brown girls, but they're also really thin and I don't look like them. And then all of a sudden I found the curvy side, curvy surfers. I'm just like, yes, like representation, but also I still don't look like them. So in a way, it kind of honestly inspires me to be that person that I can look up to. Because representation, it definitely freaking matters, you know. Growing up, Mulan was like the closest Asian, so just like yes.
I love that
movie. Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. I think that Filipino princess is coming up. But no, honestly, comparison is a huge deal that everyone deals with, especially with social media. It's your responsibility to really diversify the content that you're looking at, because everything is subconscious that you're going to absorb.
For sure. And just a little side note, I swore up and down, talking about surfing. I saw you post a picture one time, and it was
Naruto surf.
No, it was the back of this girl's head, and I think they had the skateboard in the camera, and I was like, "Oh shit, is that Cristina? She tearing up the half pipe?" I swore up and down that was you. I was about to message you. I was like, "Oh my god, are you killing it out here like
dang,
this?"
I wish one day it will. He's like, I never knew. What the heck? All of a sudden you're surfing.
Right, like this girl is killing it out here, man. Right. But one day, Cristina, one day, man.
Oh, for sure. Also, I think it's also just finding that person, because I know that there's people out there that I want to follow. It's just hard. And again, this comes with representation. Like roller skating has become a recent fad, but then there's a deeper history with it, especially its significance in the Black community. And these Black skaters came out saying like, hey, like I've been doing this, I've been on TikTok for so long, and I don't get nearly as many views as these white girls on skates. You know, it's like I just, it's a situation that I can't win, and I'm trying. And no, that definitely goes into a whole ass other topic for sure.
So social media is definitely like an important part in that, and it's crazy because I found this quote from Malcolm X that I always use, like when it comes to media, and it says the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. Media has the power to influence minds, ideas, behaviors, and attitudes of the masses. And it's crazy that, you know, that was said by somebody who's been dead for like over 50 years now, but it still applies in the same, you know, context right now, because, you know, it's so powerful. Just like what you were saying about how you go and look for that outlet of some people, you know, who look like you and who are interested in the same thing as you. And, you know, we use social media to kind of weave our way into these different like communities and places to go, you know, especially right now during a time where we can't go out and actually interact with, you know, a group of people. So it's just interesting because, you know, a lot of times social media too can hurt you because, like you said, it tells you how you're supposed to look or what they want you to look. And, you know, Malcolm X said that too. He always said, you know, who taught you, you know, to hate how you look? Who taught you to hate, you know, your skin, your hair, you know, your mind and all that? You know, you learn that from the media. You know, that's almost like the first kind of education you get besides your parents and, you know, school. You know, you learn a lot from TV, books, magazines, because, you know, it's already feeding your mind that image of, you know, this is what's acceptable and this is what's not. And I think over the last few years that a lot of people are starting to break down those barriers. Like, you know, we see it in the plus size models on the billboards, you know, darker skin people are being appreciated, you know, other races are being shown here, you know, diversity in, like, you know, film, television, you know, it's not at the peak it should be, but it's getting to that, you know, point that we need it to be. And, you know, with social media, like I say, it's a, you know, it's a double-edged sword because it can be positive sometimes and then it can be negative because you look for, you just go on there to look for that place, you know, to feel accepted. And, you know, it is, well, I know for me, I do the same thing. You know, I follow like a lot of pages about like film and art and stuff, you know, because when I go down my feed, that's, you know, I feel, you know, at home when I see all that. It's like, you know, I'm in my comfortable environment.
Right.
But it's, you know, media in a whole, I think, has a lot to do also with like mental health sometimes because just going back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, it's telling you how you should feel about this or how you should react with this. Like, even when you just watch sitcoms and certain shows, you know, it's telling you that, you know, guys, y'all got to be like this. Girls, you should be like this. You know, this is how you should deal with this conversation or, you know, different things like that. As far as like even like within the teenage community, how, you know, they deal with certain stuff and like suicide and, you know, all that stuff. Because I know in high school, you know, a girl in my class, she was dealing with that and we knew nothing about it. We didn't know what she was going through or anything. And she, you know, she came out one day in class and told us, you know, like the night before she thought about doing it. And it was just like, you know, we would never have known that because when she's at school, you know, she doesn't show, you know, those kind of characteristics. But it's just crazy that, you know, certain people have to deal with stuff like that on their own and, you know, they can't come out and talk about it. So getting back, you know, to the main thing, you know, social media is a platform where it can kind of balance out sometimes for people who are looking for that place.
Now, it's definitely a double-edged sword because it can bring communities together, but then it can also just create battles in your mind. At a certain point, I had to unfollow a lot of creatives on Instagram because I knew that I was not at a point where my self-worth and my confidence was the greatest, and I knew that I had to work on it in order to follow creatives again. And instead of comparing myself to them, instead of comparing myself to them, I can then now view them as inspirations. The whole, you know, just because, you know, someone else is shining doesn't mean that you're not shining as well.
For sure.
That's always something that you have to keep in mind as someone who uses social media as an outlet or any sort of art form, honestly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And definitely, another thing about social media, don't pay attention to the numbers.
Definitely.
Yes, man, that's very important, Josh. Like,
Yeah.
people are so worried about how many followers they have or how many likes.
Yes.
When I don't understand why, like, why is that important? You know, just do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was only on like Apple users, but when Instagram took away the likes and stuff, like people were upset.
Yeah, because they wanted that
Mhm.
instant gratification.
That validation. You never like, where's my validation
Exactly.
at, man? Like, I need
People want
this.
instant
I
Mhm.
crave
validation.
it.
Right. They wanted that quick dopamine burst. They're like, oh, I
Like,
feel
hit me
good
up
today.
real
I got a
quick,
like.
man.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's
Like,
funny because like another perspective that someone talked about again on another podcast was on a business standpoint that was actually a con for them because they use numbers to see what growth there is or just the whole business side of those numbers. And I'm just like, that's so intertwined into something that's, you know, super detrimental instead.
No, it is because they're using that, you know, for a trend. Like they'll just say, well, like Marcus put out a comic book or something on social media.
Mhm.
Well, if it gets 1 million likes, well, you know, we're going to pour money into his idea because
Mhm.
obviously people are into it, you know,
Mhm.
versus somebody else that only got like 2 or 3 likes. But at the same time, these businesses, they're only worried about it monetarily. They're not like,
Mhm.
well, what is this doing to his ego? You know, what is this
Mhm.
doing for him? You know, or for the other guy that didn't get as many likes, like how does he feel? You know,
Mhm.
and that's another thing, Josh, I wanted to kind of ask you about because I know we've talked about social media as far as putting your artwork out there versus like some of the accounts that you follow. Like I wanted to ask you specifically, how does how has your I guess dealing with your art account, like how has that affected you on Instagram?
Well, as far as me posting art, I just post the stuff I want to post really, and I don't really think about the likes because back when I first got started with my account, uh, I had it was really bad. I had a schedule of the post every day. Like I did a new
Mhm.
drawing every day, and I tried to advertise myself by paying for advertisements on Instagram, and I also tried to comment on all other kinds of people's artworks
Mhm.
and liked and followed all kinds of people. And I did that for 5 or 6 months,
Mm.
4 months, and it just really became tiring. And
Mhm.
I had to realize, okay, Josh, what are you doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
And do you really like it? And also, you need to start drawing stuff you actually are interested in instead of stuff that
Mhm.
what other people are interested in.
Right.
So I kind of started over. I deleted the post I didn't like, and I started drawing stuff I liked. And I stopped worrying about the numbers, and I just did what I wanted to.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's important, Josh,
Yeah.
because as an artist, the one thing they told us when I was in college is, you know, don't do something because you know you're doing it for a grade or we telling you to do it. You know, do what you like. And when you said that, you posted what you like. That's when you know you kind of break down that barrier because we are biggest critics as
Yeah.
far
Mhm.
as like artists. Like we always think something's not good that other people think is amazing. So we really go through that, you know, turmoil with like what we want to put out there because we always feel like we can do better on something that a lot of people think is good. So just like you, Josh, I rarely post any of my art, and I just started doing that my last
Mhm.
semester in college, like posting my projects I was doing in my class. So you know,
Yeah.
it's just you being comfortable with what you like. So that's very important, Josh. And like I keep saying, I'm so proud of you, man. So keep it.
Mhm.
Big
Yeah,
time, man.
appreciate it.
Big time. Big time.
Props to you guys also, because I wanted to start a podcast for, you know, the longest time, same freaking story. But dealing with perfectionism, I was just like, I need to have a good camera. I need to have a good setup. I need to have this and that. And like, so that it looks perfect and it is perfect. And I'll be able to have these cool conversations with people. Um, but the main reason why I wanted to do this or to make my own podcast was to have that conversation and that connection with people. And you guys talked about it before, just dealing with the same thing, but all of a sudden, look at you guys now. You're doing it, with whatever you have. And honestly, props, because I think that holds a lot of people back. That's what's holding me back. And I'm really proud and really happy that you guys have this space and is able to express yourself, and honestly to even have me on here. That's awesome. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being on here.
Yeah.
I appreciate it a lot.
Oh,
We
of
appreciate
course.
No
You know,
problem. Yeah.
yeah, we appreciate it so much, and it's just one of those things. Everybody, it's a part of being human. Everybody has that nagging thing in the back of their head. Is just like, okay, I want to do this, but this needs to be right first, or that needs to be right 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you, me and Demetrius went into a long conversation yesterday
Mm-hmm.
about how we dealt with the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
with trying to birth this, and conceptualize this podcast. It's
Mm-hmm.
all the same. But I wanted to definitely thank you and say that I'm proud of you too for, being brave enough to come on here and be so
Yeah.
transparent with us. That's
Yeah.
Open. Yeah, you've been so open about you. Like, I'm like so much respect for that, because it's hard.
100%.
Because like even me
Yes.
coming on here was hard for me to talk like this, and you've been
Yeah.
talking so open and like
Yeah.
detailed and asking questions and
Yeah.
keeping a conversation going and stuff like that.
Thank
So
you.
I
It helps a
appreciate
lot.
that.
It helps a
Oh.
lot when you guys reciprocate the same and give off this energy that makes me feel comfortable. Something that I thought about earlier in our conversation, we all have these things that we want to do and stuff that's kind of holding us back. What's one thing that each of you guys, pretty much what's on your bucket list? What's one thing that you guys want to achieve, one skill that you want to learn that you've always wanted to do?
Wow. Who wants to go first?
I can go
Yeah.
first.
Go
I'll hit
ahead,
it up.
All right.
I've been wanting to learn like at least 2 more languages. Like I've been
Mhm.
trying. Like it's been hard, but I've been trying to, be committed to learning 2 different languages other than
What
like,
languages?
So I wanted to become like more fluent in Korean, because like I lived there
Mhm.
for so long. So I was like, why not, learn the language fluently?
Mhm.
And I think it was between like what was it? Like French and Japanese too. Like I wanted to
Mhm.
learn those because like I thought they were interesting.
Two
But
very
Japanese is
opposite
hard,
languages.
man.
What?
Like, hey, I'm just over here trying to like, bag 2 languages here, 2 or 3 languages. But it's hard to be like dedicated to it and to commit that time, because like for once, like with Korean, I was like on it every day for hours. And then
Mhm.
like I got swamped with everything else, and I haven't been to it since. So I'm like trying to get back to it, and it's just been kind of hard. But it's on my list of things I want to do. It's to just be more
People
fluent in
always,
something else.
yeah, no, people always say that the best way to learn a language is to immerse yourself in said location, but that's also a privilege in itself, and to be able to travel. And yeah,
Definitely.
like you said, it's so hard when like, who speaks Japanese, who speaks French, especially
Right.
French, who speaks French out here? Oh.
Right, exactly.
That's really interesting.
No, that is real cool.
Interesting
It's
tip
hard,
that I
but
learned
that's
about
cool.
you.
Yeah.
That's difficult. How about you, Marcus?
Oh, so you just put me on the spot.
Oh, my bad. I mean, I could go over. It's no problem.
For me, I know for me, one thing I do that I've always wanted to do is just like travel and see different places in the world, because I've always been interested in like other cultures and how people live in the world. Obviously it's hard to do that right now, but That's like one of the main things I wanted to do because I feel like it would help me as far as like when I really do get into like filmmaking and writing and stuff. I can understand like people from different backgrounds. So yeah, I've always wanted to travel. Just get out because I'm that kind of person. I just like to get out there and go. Like I can't.
Yeah.
First chance that you get, where are you going?
First chance.
Because it like don't think about currency. Don't think about if you have the money. Like first country.
I probably would go to
California.
I would actually. You know what? That's crazy.
Right.
I probably would start with California first because I
That's
have
a little stepping stone.
one place in America I haven't been, and then like from California, I probably would just go like there's like Italy, France. Like I always wanted to go there because I just heard
Europe. Interesting.
Yeah, Europe, like the food and just to see the monuments. Go to Africa, all them places, just anywhere around the world. I know when I was a kid though, I always wanted to go to Africa to go on a like real safari because I used to love lions when I was younger, so I really wanted to like see actual lions like out in the habitat.
Yeah.
That was like one of my things to do. Like when I travel, I want to go to Africa and like see the wildlife. So yeah,
that's awesome.
No.
Yeah, you brought back up old things I wanted to do.
That's what I do, man.
That's what's up.
You're just like crying right now.
Okay, Chad, your turn.
Yeah, you put him on the spot.
Well, well, I feel like y'all kind of already know this about me because I talk about him a lot. One of the things I was fortunate enough to actually get the chance to do, mostly because of my parents pushing me to do it. But my mom, that's my girl, man. She bought this tattoo kit. And she was like, "Yeah, Chad, so you're giving me a tattoo." And I was just like, So yeah, so I do that now, and that was something I really wanted to do for the longest because I'm just, I just love the arts, period. That's just something I've always been interested in. And the other thing that I would just love to do, not even as a career, but just once, like, because I'm such a student. And since I was a little kid, it's been something I've always just thought was amazing, was voice acting. Like I always, I've always, and Joshua knows because like, we talk about it all the time. Like I would love to maybe, do something on Rick and Morty one time or just anything. Like I love cartoons and I love the actors that, do voiceover. And I would just love, that would make my life if I could just do it once. Like that would be amazing.
Oh,
so
yeah,
an underappreciated art for sure.
Yes, it is.
Definitely.
Certainly.
I think if I heard, it's actually kind of a really hard thing to get into.
Yeah. Because one person can do so many different people or voices, so it's just like there's not too much of a market for it because a lot of it's already covered,
Don't let it stop you though. Don't let me. Don't worry about that.
Oh no.
Hey Chad, I told you. Whenever I get my show, you got a job, bro.
Hey, I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate it.
How about you, Josh?
You already know what it is.
What's up with you?
Well, like Chad, it's two things. I always wanted to illustrate and write a comic book, and I always wanted to have a clothing brand.
Oh, what?
That's awesome.
Hey.
I would have never thought that for some reason.
Yeah, I've always been interested in like different clothings of different cultures and stuff, and I incorporated it into my art. So yeah.
Does that affect the way that you express yourself with your fashion?
Not really. I don't think it kind of leaks into my own personal fashion. I pretty much wear like, I wouldn't say I wear regular stuff, but I just have I just have a regular style. Like I wear a shirt and maybe like a jean jacket and some boots, just regular stuff. But yeah, I incorporate that into a lot of my art and just different cultures in general into a lot of my art.
Yeah. But I've seen a lot of really cool, just randomly on like Facebook or something, just cool mixtures of traditional clothing mixed with like street clothing, or just people mixing like different things from their own cultures with their own fashion. All of that is just really unique.
Yeah.
No, definitely, and I can really see that, Josh. Like with a lot of your art, like the clothing, like it's really creative, man. And you seem to be focused like on a certain style. Like a lot of your characters, you know, kind of rock similar clothing. Like, and it's really cool, man. Like I could tell, like that you're into fashion. Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
very evident. Yeah, it's very, very evident. But
if you if you want to visually see us, you know, not on the radio, you can go to our page on YouTube, the Square Round Table, all together, you know, and we post it Friday after we film. It'll be up there, and if you like it, you know, comment. We like to see comments and, you know, react to comments, stuff like that, and subscribe, like and subscribe, and you know, also hit that notification bell so you can like know when we're posting. You know, that's a great thing.
all right.